Okay, welcome back to Photoshop CS5 lesson 1.4, our final lesson. Now, if you were with us for 1.3, the move and transform tools, commands, then you saw me massacre this selection. And today, apply the transformation, don't apply. We'll leave it like that. There we go. Okay, so if you want to, I'm sorry, I forgot to say that in 1.3, didn't I? If you want to accept that transformation, you hit enter. Now, what if I want to modify a selection, because you're not going to get it right on the first shot? Well, I have several options available to me. Number one, I can modify the selection by going to select menus, modify submenu. So with that selection started, I'm going to go to select and I'm going to go to modify. Now I can modify the border, I can smooth it, expand it, contract it, feather it, all of these things, because Photoshop automatically anti-aliases everything so that it gives you a smoother edge whenever you're trying to move something into another photo. It blends better and that kind of thing. So if I open up border, now the border is going to select only the pixels at the border of a selection based on the width that I specify. Well, I'm going to push that up to 2 and say OK. There we go. Now, what if I want to smooth it? I'm going to go back to select, modify, smooth, and the smooth command makes a selection's edges more rounded based on the value that I specify. Currently I'm at 5, so I'm going to tell it, actually that's pretty good, so I'm going to leave it at 5. Expand spreads the selection outward by the value that I specify. Select, modify, expand. Contract, obviously, shrinks a selection inward by the value that you specify. And feather blends a selection with its background by applying transparency to the selection's outer pixels. I want to select this leaf, so I'm going to deselect my stem right now, and I'm going to go to my quick select and just jump in here, and just to show you the expand tool. Okay, select or expand command. Expand by 8. Now, look what it did. But I can grab my move tool, don't forget. I can grab it and go in here like this. Now, I can then continue on, and I can go back to my selection tool and go and add to that selection however I see fit, and then I could go in and modify, select, modify, contract, and I want to bring it in by 3. Okay, that didn't do a very good job on this side, so I could do it again, and I would keep playing with it. Now I have another option available to me. Oh my goodness, what a mess I've made. So I can also hit, notice this, I can add to the selection, I can take away from the selection, subtract, and then I can make a new selection. So these are options for me as well. Well, right now I want to subtract from the selection. All that right there needs to go. Bye-bye. Okay. And then I can go back in and add. And of course, I'm not doing a very good job because I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to show you the options. Now, I have one more option. That was my select modify commands. That was also my new selection, adding to a selection, subtracting from a selection, and intersecting with a selection. And regardless of what tool that you use, you're never going to get the perfect selection the first time, and so rather than starting over and over again, when you choose a selection tool, the options bar should display 4 selection buttons that control the tool functions, and those are, here's your options bar. Now, because I'm using this one, let me click on my lasso. Here we go. Look, with my lasso, polygonal, so with my quick selection it doesn't work quite that way because of what it is. But with my lasso, my marquee tools up here, my elliptical and square, I have the ability to make a new selection, add to a selection, subtract, or intersect with a selection. So if I went to subtract, I would just go here like this and select that, and it would take that away. Now what if I intersected? Well, I want to include this part of the leaf, so I'm just going to start with my lasso tool and go right into there. Now look, it intersected with this one piece, and by doing so it only selected that. But I could work it where it would actually include this by going perhaps like this. Next, I have the option to refine my edge, and this is a wonderful option for me because refine edge, even though it might appear smooth, it might contain jagged arcs, or the edge of it might overlap areas you want to leave out. So you can modify a selection by doing all the things we've talked about, and then you might want even more control over the quality because of how you're going to use it. So you can either click refine edge, or you can go to select refine edge, and it opens the refine edge dialog box. Now take a look. Everything by default, the image changes to show the selection over a white background, hiding the image areas that are not selected, and that way it makes it easier for you to come through and make different decisions. For instance, with my view mode, I can show the radius or show the original. I can drop this down and I can say, okay, I want my selection to be black and white, or on layers, or I want marching ants. Okay, so it's going to show me that, but by default it goes to the white. Okay, now once I've chosen whatever I want in my view, I can say edge detection. I want to use a smart radius, and how many pixels. The smart radius, basically it adjusts the area around the selection boundary in which the edge refinement settings are applied. So you check smart radius to automatically adjust the selection for hard and soft areas in the border, to make selections around soft areas softer and selections around hard areas harder. So we check that, and then you can drag this out for pixels, and obviously you can go up to 250. Now look what happens to my photo here. So clearly that's not really what I want, but looky there. It's getting better because it's getting rid, like my smart radius is getting rid of that blue. Now I can also adjust my edge. This over here, before we move on from edge detection, erases, it's the refine radius tool, and expands the detection area. It's automatically selected. Now I can move on to my adjusting my edge by smoothing it, and I would just choose my point there, and it does it right in front of you so you can see. I like the contrast. and shifting the edge. It can shift the edge to one side or the other. Now, in other words, it reduces or enlarges the selection boundary. Shift edge does. Okay, next, decontaminate colors. That reduces color fringes by replacing them with the color from nearby pixels. The softness of the selection edge affects the strength of the color replacement. So I can say decontaminate the colors, and how much? By 50%. Output to a new layer with a layer mask, or a new layer altogether, a new document with a layer mask. I can do all those things. I'm going to say a new layer with a layer mask and leave it at that. And then I can choose to remember the settings so I don't have to keep doing that over and over again. I can also magnify, say I want to zoom in on what I'm doing, or if I need to move over because I zoomed in, I can grab that and move it back and forth. So that's my Refine Edge tool. When I hit OK, my selection is made. It refined my edge on my selection. So now, and it, notice what it did. It gave me a layer mask. Now right now I'm on layer 0, copy 2, but I'm not on the layer mask. So if I double click, now that I'm on the layer mask. When the new selection button is selected, you can refine a selection by temporarily activating the selection button you want. You can use the following shortcut keys for refining a selection. If you want, you can press Shift to temporarily activate the Add To selection. So I can temporarily, I'm going to make a little selection here. Now, right now, I'm on the new selection. But I want to hold down my Shift key because I want to add to. I can press Shift to add to. Alright, now look. I can press Alt to subtract from while I click and drag, and it will do that. It subtracted that little piece right there. And then I can press Shift and Alt to activate the intersect. So Shift and Alt, and then point, click, and drag, and it will do the intersection only. Feathering. By default, as I said, Photoshop selection tools all apply anti-aliasing to soften a selection's edges, but it softens only the pixels at the very edge of the selection. So if you want to soften the larger area, you can apply feathering. Feathering also blends a selection with its background. It applies that transparency to the selection's outer pixels, and as the feathering extends outward, it becomes increasingly transparent. So the feathering is not apparent until you move, cut, copy, or fill the selection. You can specify feathering for the lasso tool and the marquee tool by entering a value in the feather field on the options bar. And we'll just, right now we're in the lasso, and if you see this, feather, and if we move here, but your magic wand does not do that. Your quick selection does not do that, and your magic wand does not offer you that. It offers you refine edge, tolerance, and anti-alias, as do all, but it does not give you the feathering option. And that concludes our Chapter 1 lessons.